Welcome back. I'm the Film Hack Dude. This is Quick Shots. So, Wonder Woman 1984. Sequel to 2017's Wonder Woman. So, did I like this film? Not really. Unfortunately not. It just wasn't as good as the first. It really didn't, the story just didn't flow very well. I blame Jeff Johns. He wrote the story and contributed to the screenplay. Did not do either for the first Wonder Woman. Zack Snyder wrote the story, and some other guy wrote the screenplay. This time around, Jeff Johns contributed to both, and you see the result in the film. So no, I didn't think it was very good. I think Gal Gadot did a great job. Chris Pine did a great job. Unfortunately, the way it was written, it seemed like Wonder Woman needed Steve Trevor just to help carry the movie. Unfortunately, that's as soon as he showed up, it started to flow better. Not because Gal Gadot couldn't carry the film herself. It's just that's the way they wrote it. I'm a little confused because Patty Jenkins is Patty Jenkins is a good director, and I'm surprised that she let the interference take place, and I know it did. It wasn't very tight. The movie was 2.5 hours long. It didn't need to be 2.5 hours. They really dragged out the 2.5 hours. There wasn't much to the story, honestly. Pedro Pascal did a decent job as Maxwell Lord. Kristen Wiig did the best she could with what they gave her for Cheetah. There's, spoiler, Cheetah's basically in one scene, and it's poorly lit, and I've been told that it's poorly lit because they tried to cover bad CGI, and they've had more than enough time to get this film ready. So, yeah, very, very disappointed in this film. I'm not really sure. I'm sure as the months go by, we'll find out more why this happened. This film is called Wonder Woman 1984. So you expect there to be a heavy dose of 80s in it. And what I hear in every review and everybody talking about it is they're all saying, oh, it had that 80s cheese. And I grew up in the 80s, and I've watched a lot of 80s movies. I grew up in that time. And the 80s wasn't cheesy. It wasn't goofy. The 80s had a certain charm to it. And maybe, it was exaggerated a little, it was exaggerated at times. Some of the acting may have been, some of the acting was overacting sometimes. It seemed like everybody was really hyped up. Probably not just cocaine. I mean, kids were hyped up too then. But it just didn't really capture that 80s vibe. I mean, a lot of people think and say it did, but there was not one iconic 80s song in the movie. Shows like Stranger Things capture the 80s vibe. Even Cobra Kai captures it better than this movie did. Some people like that it didn't have all the 80s movie tropes, but then why set it in 1984? Why capitalize on that? Why call it 1984? The mall scene in the opening I thought was bad. It was worse than an 80s. It was cheesier than an 80s movie. It was almost like a parody. And I don't see the point in that. If the movie's not a comedy, if it's not a straight up parody, what are they doing? It doesn't really make sense. So yeah, I was disappointed in a lot of things in this movie. But those stuff with the 80s, that's just nitpick stuff. If it was a solid story, then I'd look past that. But they really did drag you through 2.5 hours of mostly just a boring film. There was a couple of action scenes, and they were okay. They weren't great. So yeah, what was good about the film? Like I said, Gal Gadot was good as Wonder Woman. Chris Pine, he was pretty good. Every actor, all the actors turned in a pretty good performance. They just didn't have much to They just didn't have much to work with. Boring is how I would really describe this film. I think a major nitpick for a lot of people was the rules in this film. And every film sets certain rules for itself. And this film didn't clearly set what the rules were. The wishing was a little confusing. Did you have to touch the Dreamstone? Did you not have to touch it? Could Maxwell Lord grant wishes himself? Or did somebody else have to wish? Wonder Woman's powers were a little confusing. It's almost like they were just making it up as they went along. And they say, oh yeah, she can do that, or the lasso can do this. There was, you never knew what was going to happen, and I don't mean that in it was unpredictable. It's because they were breaking their own rules, basically. The suit of armor, the Wonder Woman armor, that was kind of cool. It seemed like there should have been more of a setup for that. There was a small setup, but it never really paid off. You see it in a flashback sequence, and then you see it in her apartment, all wrapped up, like she's had it all this time. Just wrapped up, just sitting there in her apartment. And then when she uses it in the film, it doesn't really make sense at all. So this is a spoiler. I just have to explain this one scene. When she learns to fly, and she clearly flies from DC to this island where Maxwell Lord is. And she's clearly seen to be flying for miles. And she's wearing her regular Wonder Woman outfit. When she gets to the island, she's wearing the suit of armor. It never shows her go back to her apartment to get it. Somebody on Twitter told me, oh, she went back to her apartment. Did you even see the movie? It's like, I don't remember that scene. I watched it. She basically, I don't know if she wished it on her. I think they just honestly fucked up. But anyway, so yeah, there was like little things like that they didn't really explain well. Steve Trevor coming back into somebody else's body was, I don't know if they were intentionally trying to do a quantum leap type thing. I mean, maybe, but like they didn't explain anything. It's like things just happened and they didn't bother explaining anything. And the things that happened weren't very interesting. So ultimately, in the end, was it enjoyable watching it? Some of it, but a movie's not good, or you don't like a movie when you're sitting halfway through, maybe, or 3/4 of the way through, and you're watching it and you tell yourself, I'm probably not going to watch this anytime soon, or I'll never watch this movie again. Because I remember sitting there and thinking, let's just get this over with. I just wanted it to end. That's a bad sign. That is a bad sign. So what would I grade Wonder Woman 1984? I would probably give it a C-. C-. There was potential there. Some of the action scenes were decent. The emotional aspect of the film did work. Seeing Gal Gadot and Chris Pine together, their chemistry is great. It did have emotional impact when I saw them together, but it was only because of the first film that you feel that. You every time you see them together, you think back to that film, which was much better. Nothing in this film is, gives anything any weight. The one addition I did like, some people didn't like this, but I did, was the addition of Beautiful Lie at the end, which is the Hans Zimmer track that he wrote for Batman v Superman. It's the opening track to the film. I thought it was very fitting since the name of the piece is Beautiful Lie, and that was kind of what Maxwell Lord was creating for the world, was a beautiful lie. It didn't turn out that beautiful, but I thought the music worked well, and I was really kind of hoping to see a 12-year-old Bruce Wayne, staring at, the portrait of his parents in Wayne Manor, and maybe them dissipating, or him fighting the wish, or him in some way. I was just hoping for a quick scene of like a young Bruce Wayne, either fighting to make the wish or renouncing the wish to bring his parents back. I thought that would have been cool. Some people would probably, cringe for that, but I don't care. I would have liked it. Well, this has been Quick Shots. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.